Today we're going to do all sorts of Desmos activities that involve writing equations of lines. As I've said before, it's so important that we understand the equation of a line, and so we're going to do a little bit of review first before you go off and try all sorts of fun Desmos activities today. All right, so here we're going to review what's necessary. So if you recall, we've done an activity similar to this where we are changing the coefficients and the last numbers to get our equations or our line to go through these points. So we know a bit more about equations of lines now, so we can tell that we need the slope and the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is going to be -2, so at the very least, at the end, it's going to be -2. And now you can use any 2 points to calculate the slope. So I think from here I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3 and run 1. So that looks like the slope is going to be 3 over 1 or just 3. And I get the thumbs up. So there's a 3x minus 2. In the next one, again, I'm going to start with a y-intercept. So the y-intercept's up here. So 1, 2, 3. And so I'm going to change this to a 3. But now it's going in the opposite direction, and it's a negative correlation, so I need it to go down. Now, if I go from here, it's hard to count to this point. I don't know how far that is, and this point's not an easy one. That one's not an easy one, but this point is. But if I can see from going from here to here, then I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I'm going to change my slope to -3 over 4 divided by 4. And I get the thumbs up again. This time you don't have the prompt. You should be able to come up with the y equals mx plus b on your own. So this one is going to, instead of using y, remember we're using f at x, that's fine. So this one is going to be a +1, and again, it's hard to see that point, but this point right here should be handy. So we're going to rise 1, 2 and run 1, 2, 3. So I think it's going to be 2 over 3x. Now be careful where you put the x because that produces a very different graph. So I'm going to just move my cursor over so I'm outside of that. So that's 2 over 3x. So that looks like it's like my line, but its y-intercept is in the wrong spot, so I'm going to have to go +1. And I get a thumbs up from a really awesome guy. Let's try this one now. Okay, so this one is going down. Let's again find some points that are easy to calculate. Here's the spot that's nice. This one looks like a 2.5, so that's going to be difficult. From here we go. So down 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1. Okay, so -4 over 1 is just -4x. So that looks good. And now in this one, this makes it a little bit more challenging because the y-intercept is off my screen. So I'm going to have to do some guessing to figure out where it is. It's somewhere up here, I think. So maybe like +8. Oh, no, maybe 10. No, maybe 11. All right, good. So this is what today's activities are going to be about, where we're going to have some more interesting and challenging ways to find equations because you're going to be given even less information. All right, are you ready for what's next? This is my favorite part of this activity. Can you feed Mr. Lee? So what we want is to draw a line that goes through here and ends up getting Mr. Lee right in the mouth. So let's again count. This one goes up 1 over 1, or up 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 4 over 4 is 1, or 1 over 1 is 1, or 2 over 2 is 1. All of them are going to be 1x. Or I bet you I can just put x because that means 1x. And my y-intercept for this is down at -4, so I'm going to go -4, and bingo. I have been able to get my line right through Mr. Lee's mouth. Now, not only did we actually go through Mr. Lee's mouth, but we went right through his head. So there is a way to stop this line. And the reason I'm showing you this is because it's going to be helpful for one of the other activities we're doing. So you can stop the line by talking about the domain. Okay, so domain is something you're going to learn about next year, but we'll just sort of hint at it this year. So on the next slide, it says, try adding x is less than 6 after your equation to see what happens. So if we go to the next slide, we're going to add this. Now we need these curly brackets so it knows that we're not dealing with the equation. This is just, these curly brackets talk about the domain. So we're going to go x, and then less than, remember, is shift comma, is less than 6, and close my curly brackets. And now you see the equation of the line stopping right there. And we get to that last point, which essentially is feeding Mr. Lee. So adding this domain after restricts the line to only graph the x values less than 6. So you see everything less than 6. If we changed it to, let's say, 8, that'd be too far. It goes further than that. Or if we changed it to 4, it's not enough. Okay, so that's why we're going to x is less than 6. So adding this domain of curly brackets x is less than 6 restricts the domain and only graphs the lines less when x is less than 6. Now, if we had done the other symbol and gone greater than 6, you see it's done all of the line after 6 when x is less or greater than 6. That's not what we want. We want less than 6. All right, so that's an interesting little twist to our equations of lines that is going to be helpful for one of the cool activities you're going to do in a moment. So now I'm going to take away even more information, taking away the grid and seeing if you can do it, and only giving you 2 points. So we're going to start here and try and feed Mr. Lee to this point. So let's go here, and I'm going to have to go down 2 and over, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4. You see, without the grid, I'm going to have to use the number line a little bit more helpful. So down 2 over 4. 2 over 4, that should work. 2 over 4 x. Oh, it's down though, so I need a negative. So I'm going to go negative 2 over 4 x. And my y-intercept is up here at 5, so I'm going to go plus 5. And it does get through there, but let's restrict the domain. So I'm going to go curly brackets, x is less than, and I want it to stop at this x value of 4. So I think if I put that, then I have it reaching that dot. Okay, a couple of things you'll notice here. This is a correct equation because Desmos understands, but we would prefer that this number be reduced. So instead of 2 over 4, I would rather see 1 over 2. Okay, so you see 1 over 4 doesn't work. It hits them in the nose. 1 over 2 gets it right to the target. And also, you'll see that I have the negative out here. The negative can go on the top if I wanted, because it is a rise of -1. That means you're going down 1. So it doesn't matter which of those works. You can even put on the bottom, but that doesn't make sense to have a backwards run. So I'm going to leave it on the top. Okay. And that means if I went down 1 and over 2, I would end up on this part of the line, which is good. Okay, so all of those would be correct answers to this. The last few here, I just want you to remind you of these horizontal lines. So in this one, we're going to put y equals. I don't even have the f of x thing. I'm going to go y equals. Now, if you remember, horizontal lines means 0x. The slope is 0x, and the y-intercept is 3. And so that would take us right through those lines. Of course, if you wanted 0x, you could just put y equals 3. Same with if I wanted the line, if I wanted the line up here, it would be y equals 5. If I wanted the line down in the negatives, I could draw a line there, but this one, of course, I want to go 3. And then if I really wanted to restrict the domain, I could stop it at 8, but I'm just going to move on to the next slide. And how do I draw horizontal line or vertical lines? Well, y equals doesn't work anymore. So let's try y equals -2. Nope, that's a horizontal line. Okay, and I can't get something steep enough, even if I went like 100x. Pretty steep, but it's not exactly steep. So we're not going to use y equals to get horizontal lines. We're going to go x equals. And this time, let's say 2. No, that would go over here. So I want x equals -2. Oops. -2, and you see it goes through there. Okay. If you're really curious, you could restrict the spot so it stops here, but restricting the x's are not going to change anything. So instead, we want the y values to stop. So this time we'd have to say y is less than 4. Okay, but this is just an optional step for this little part. So I'm not going to worry too much about that right now. The reason I wanted to do this slide and this slide is to remind you what horizontal lines look like, y equals, and that vertical lines are x equals. All right, and sometimes you'll need to do a couple of equations to be able to solve this. So if we wanted to trace this out, I'm going to try one, say y equals 1x plus 1, and that gets me right through that line. If I wanted the second one, so y equals, I think maybe a half x, so 1 over 2x plus 1 gets me through that line, and so forth. Okay, so you might need to do a couple of lines in order to do whatever challenge is being offered at you. Okay, so that activity was meant to just review all of the stuff to really set you up for the fun 3 activities that I have next. So the first one is called Marble Slides, which is one of Desmos' coolest activities. I'll just give you a quick little intro. Your goal, your job is to try and get these marbles to hit all the stars. So right now it just says go ahead and push launch and let's see what happens. And because of the lines there, it collects all the stars. So what if we did it in this case? Well, if we push launch, they're going to fall down and miss all the stars because our line is not the correct line. So we have to change one number to fix this. So I think x plus 1 is not going to be good. I think we need x minus 1. Oh, maybe even more than that, minus 2. That looks like it should work. Launch, and we have success. All right, so that is going to be our object in this, is to adjust things. Here's a little thing. If you're fiddling around and you've tried all sorts of stuff and you mess things up, you can push reset. So if I went back here and you can push reset. I don't have the reset button because I'm doing a preview mode, but yours will have a reset button and it'll allow you to fix it back to the original. All right, so and then you're going to be challenged to try and change all the equations to collect all the stars. And I'm not going to do too many for you because I want you to have fun doing this. You're going to have to write your own equation for this one. Here's another one. Here's an interesting one. It already has one there. So you're curious, it's a horizontal line. We just talked about what the equations are for horizontal lines. I wonder if it's y equals -3. Oh, no, but that gives you a clue. All right, and it gets to this one, and this is why I talked about the domain. Okay, so you see on this one, the line stops at 4. So let's push launch and see what happens. So it gets some of the stars, but it misses few. So we need that line to go further. And so this is where that domain is going to come in. So let's get the line to maybe stop at, there's 4, 5, 6. Maybe we'll get to stop at 6. See if that works. And we have success. So that's why I wanted to review this little domain part so that when you came across it in Marble Slides, you can see what to do. So you're gonna have to change the domain and on these ones to be able to be successful for these ones. Okay, so Marble Slides is one of Desmos' most popular activities. I've seen students play this for a long, long time. So I really want you to have some fun and with these challenges. All right, so there's Marble Slides. Next, coin capture. Very similar to Marble Slides. Okay, you're going to go off and write an equation to try and capture the coins. You see that this equation is too high because the y-intercept is +1. So we can go off and change this to -1. Submit, and we get all of the coins. Okay, so we did it in 2 guesses. I bet you could do it in less than that. All right, here's one. Oh, horizontal lines and vertical lines. So you're going to need a couple of equations to put in to try and get these coins. All right, and then this one, obviously, we're going to have quite a few number of equations to get all of the coins. All right, so you'll be putting in a number of equations. And the reason I wanted to point this out is because the last stage is a challenge where where you can make up a question for other students in the class by placing the coins in different spots and then getting other students to try and collect those coins. Okay, so this is going to be a really fun part about doing all of these Desmos activities. Okay, so that's called coin capture. And the last one, again, this is all to practice our equations, is called land the plane. And I'll let you go through the intro steps, but I will show you one of the equations. For example, this one here, the point is to try and get your plane to land on the runway, much like you were feeding the line to Mr. Lee. So this one, the slope looks way too steep, so I'm going to try 1/2 instead, and that looks like it might land the plane. And let's see, it looks pretty good. The green lights tell me that I've done it correctly. This is a really cool activity because in this case, you see how the red line is the only one that's successful. You can come really close, the green line, but it's not safe, and the blue line is a little bit off. Okay, so you're going to see these in the challenges to try and land the plane in these activities. Okay, and again, there's a challenge one at the end of that if you are interested. So today's all about Desmos and really having some fun with these activities. The more you play, the more you're going to learn, and the more you're going to get better at equations of lines. So have a lot of fun with the Desmos activities today, and we'll talk to you soon.